Sarah Martinez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she walked out of City General Hospital. It had been another exhausting 12-hour shift in the emergency department. The young nurse had only been working for 8 months, but she already felt like she had seen everything the city could throw at her. Car accidents, heart attacks, overdoses, and countless other emergencies filled her days and nights. The parking lot was dimly lit, and Sarah clutched her keys tightly as she made her way to her old Honda Civic. She was looking forward to going home, taking a hot shower, and maybe watching a movie before falling asleep. Tomorrow would bring another challenging day at the hospital. As she approached her car, Sarah heard a strange sound coming from behind a row of parked vehicles. It sounded like someone gasping for air. She stopped walking and listened carefully. The sound came again, followed by what seemed like a weak cry for help. Sarah's nursing instincts kicked in immediately. Despite being tired and wanting to go home, she knew she couldn't ignore someone who might be in trouble. She walked toward the sound, using her phone's flashlight to see better in the darkness. Behind a large pickup truck, Sarah found a man lying on the ground. He appeared to be in his early 30s, wearing casual clothes that were now dirty and torn. His face was pale, and he was struggling to breathe. There was blood on his shirt, and Sarah could see he had been badly beaten. "Sir, can you hear me?" Sarah asked as she knelt beside him. "My name is Sarah, and I'm a nurse. I'm going to help you." The man's eyes fluttered open, and he tried to speak. But only a whisper came out. "Please," he managed to say. "Help me." Sarah quickly assessed his condition. He had multiple injuries, including what appeared to be broken ribs and possibly internal bleeding. His breathing was shallow and his pulse was weak but steady. She knew he needed immediate medical attention. "I'm going to call for an ambulance," Sarah told him, reaching for her phone. But the man grabbed her wrist weakly. "No," he whispered. "No ambulance. They'll find me." Sarah was confused. Who would find him? Was he running from someone dangerous? She looked around the parking lot, suddenly feeling nervous. What if whoever had hurt this man was still nearby? "Sir, you need medical help," Sarah explained gently. "Your injuries are serious. If we don't get you to a hospital soon, you could die." The man's grip on her wrist tightened slightly. "Please," he said again. "I'm begging you. Just help me get somewhere safe." Sarah faced a difficult decision. Everything she had learned in nursing school told her to call 911 immediately. But something about this man's desperate plea made her hesitate. He was clearly terrified of something or someone. Looking at his injuries again, Sarah realized she might be able to help him herself, at least temporarily. She had medical supplies in her car from her work at the hospital, and she knew how to treat trauma patients. Maybe she could stabilize him enough to figure out what was really happening. "Okay," Sarah said finally. "I'll help you, but we need to get you cleaned up and bandaged. Can you walk if I help you?" The man nodded weakly. Sarah carefully helped him to his feet, supporting most of his weight. He was taller than she had first thought, and despite his injuries, she could see he was in good physical shape. There was something about him that suggested he might be military or law enforcement. Sarah managed to get him to her car and helped him into the passenger seat. She drove to her small apartment, which was only 10 minutes away from the hospital. All the way there, she wondered if she was making a terrible mistake. What if this man was dangerous? What if she was getting involved in something that could put her own life at risk? But every time she looked at him, slumped in her passenger seat and breathing with difficulty, her nursing instincts took over. He was a human being who needed help, and she couldn't just abandon him. At her apartment, Sarah helped the man inside and onto her couch. She gathered her first aid supplies and began cleaning his wounds. As she worked, she tried to get him to talk about what had happened to him. "What's your name?" she asked as she cleaned a cut on his forehead. "Marcus," he replied quietly. "Marcus Thompson." "Who did this to you, Marcus? Why are you afraid to go to the hospital?" Marcus was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "I'm a Marine," he said. "I was on leave, visiting my family. But I stumbled onto something I wasn't supposed to see. Some people are involved in illegal activities, and they know I can identify them." Sarah's hands stopped moving as she processed this information. "What kind of illegal activities?" "Drug smuggling, big operation. I saw them unloading shipments at the docks, and they saw me too. They chased me, caught me, and beat me up. They told me they would kill me if I went to the police." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. She was now involved in something much more serious than she had imagined. But she couldn't abandon Marcus now, not when he was injured and in danger. "Why didn't you call other Marines for help?" Sarah asked. Marcus winced as she cleaned another wound. "My unit is deployed overseas. I'm here alone, and I don't know who I can trust. These people might have connections in law enforcement." Sarah continued treating his injuries, thinking about what he had told her. She bandaged his ribs, cleaned all his cuts, and gave him pain medication from her personal supply. Marcus seemed to be feeling better, but Sarah knew his injuries were still serious. "You need proper medical attention," Sarah told him. "Even if we can't go to the hospital right now, you might have internal bleeding or other complications." "I know," Marcus said, "but I need to figure out how to contact my commanding officer first. He needs to know what I saw." Sarah made Marcus as comfortable as possible on her couch and gave him blankets and water. She was exhausted, but she knew she wouldn't be able to sleep while worrying about him. She decided to stay awake and monitor his condition. As the night went on, Marcus told Sarah more about what he had witnessed at the docks. He described seeing several men unloading large crates from a cargo ship. When they spotted him, they chased him through the industrial area near the harbor. He had managed to escape initially, but they caught up with him in the hospital parking lot. "I think they followed me there," Marcus explained. "I was hoping to get help from hospital security, but they grabbed me before I could get inside." Sarah realized that Marcus had been in the parking lot for the same reason she was there, seeking help and safety. It was just luck that she had found him instead of the people who were trying to hurt him. "What happens now?" Sarah asked. "I need to contact my unit," Marcus said. "They can help me report this properly and make sure I'm protected. But I need to be careful about how I do it. These criminals might be monitoring communications." Sarah offered to let Marcus stay at her apartment until he could figure out his next steps. She knew it was risky, but she couldn't bring herself to turn him away. Something about his story rang true, and she believed he was genuinely in danger. The next morning, Sarah called in sick to work. She couldn't leave Marcus alone in his condition, and she was worried that the people looking for him might track him to the hospital. She spent the day helping him rest and recover while he tried to figure out how to contact his military superiors safely. Marcus used Sarah's computer to research secure communication methods. He was careful not to use any personal accounts or leave digital traces that could be followed. Sarah was impressed by how methodically he approached the problem, which reinforced her belief that he really was a trained Marine. As the day progressed, Marcus seemed to be recovering well from his physical injuries, but Sarah could see he was still very worried about the situation he had gotten himself into. He kept looking out the windows and seemed jumpy whenever they heard noises from outside. "Are you sure no one followed us here?" Marcus asked for the third time that day. "I don't think so," Sarah replied. "But maybe we should think about going somewhere else, just to be safe." Marcus nodded. "You're probably right. I don't want to put you in any more danger than I already have. You've done so much to help me already." Sarah realized she had become emotionally invested in Marcus's situation. She wanted to see him get to safety and make sure the criminals who had hurt him were stopped. But she also knew that her involvement was becoming more complicated and potentially dangerous. That evening, Marcus finally managed to establish secure contact with his commanding officer. The conversation was brief and coded. but Marcus seemed relieved afterward. "What did he say?" Sarah asked. "Help is coming," Marcus replied. "But it might take a day or two to arrange. We need to stay hidden until then." Sarah agreed to continue helping Marcus despite the risks. She had come too far to abandon him now, and she genuinely cared about what happened to him. She just hoped that the help he was expecting would arrive soon, before the people looking for him tracked them down. Sarah woke up early the next morning, having barely slept. Every sound outside her apartment had made her nervous, and she kept checking on Marcus throughout the night. He seemed to be healing well, but she could tell he was still in significant pain. "How are you feeling?" Sarah asked as she brought him coffee and breakfast. "Better, thanks to you," Marcus replied. "I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done." "You don't need to thank me," Sarah said. "I just did what anyone would do." Marcus shook his head. "No, not anyone would do what you've done. You could have just called 911 and walked away. Instead, you risked your own safety to help a complete stranger." Sarah felt a warm feeling in her chest at his words. She had been questioning her decision to help Marcus, especially as the situation became more complicated and dangerous. But hearing him acknowledge what she had done made her feel proud of her choice. As they ate breakfast, Marcus explained more about his military background. He had been a Marine for 6 years and had served 2 tours overseas. He was currently on leave, visiting his younger sister who lived in the city. It was during a late-night walk near her neighborhood that he had accidentally witnessed the criminal activity at the docks. "I should have just minded my own business," Marcus said regretfully. "But when I saw what was happening, I felt like I had a duty to report it. That's what got me into this mess." "You did the right thing," Sarah assured him. "Those criminals need to be stopped. You can't blame yourself for their actions." Around noon, Marcus received another coded message from his commanding officer. This time he seemed even more relieved after reading it. "What's the news?" Sarah asked. "They're sending a team to help," Marcus explained. "It should arrive tomorrow. I just need to stay hidden for one more day." Sarah felt both relieved and sad at the same time. She was glad that Marcus would soon be safe. But she realized she had grown attached to him. Despite the dangerous circumstances of their meeting, she had enjoyed having someone to talk to and care for. That afternoon, Sarah decided to go to the grocery store to buy more food and supplies. Marcus offered to come with her, but she insisted he stay hidden in the apartment. She was careful as she drove to the store, checking her mirrors frequently to make sure no one was following her. At the grocery store, Sarah felt paranoid and anxious. Every person who looked in her direction made her nervous. She quickly gathered what she needed and headed home, eager to get back to the safety of her apartment. When Sarah returned, she found Marcus standing by the window, looking tense and alert. "What's wrong?" Sarah asked immediately. "I think I saw someone watching the building," Marcus said. "A man in a dark car parked across the street. He was there when you left, and he's still there now." Sarah felt her heart start racing. "Are you sure he's watching us?" "I can't be certain," Marcus admitted. "But my training has taught me to notice when something doesn't feel right. That car has been there too long." Sarah carefully looked out the window without being seen. Sure enough, there was a dark sedan parked across the street with someone sitting in the driver's seat. The person appeared to be looking toward their building. "What should we do?" Sarah asked, trying to stay calm. "We need to leave," Marcus said decisively. "If they've found us here, it's not safe anymore." Sarah's mind raced as she thought about their options. Where could they go? Her apartment had been their safe haven, but now it might be compromised. She thought about calling the police, but Marcus had explained that the criminals might have connections in law enforcement. "I have an idea," Sarah said suddenly. "My aunt has a cabin about an hour outside the city. It's remote and private. We could hide there until your help arrives." Marcus nodded. "That sounds like our best option. How quickly can we leave?" Sarah grabbed a bag and quickly packed essentials for both of them, including medical supplies in case Marcus's condition worsened. Marcus gathered his few belongings and prepared to move despite his injuries. They planned their exit carefully. Sarah would bring her car to the back entrance of the apartment building while Marcus would wait by the door. They would have to move quickly to avoid being seen by whoever was watching the front of the building. The plan worked smoothly. Sarah retrieved her car without incident, and Marcus was able to get to the vehicle without being spotted. As they drove away from the apartment complex, Sarah kept checking her mirrors to see if they were being followed. "I think we're okay," Sarah said after they had been driving for 20 minutes. "I don't see anyone behind us." The drive to her aunt's cabin took them through increasingly rural areas. Sarah's aunt had inherited the property from her grandfather and only used it occasionally for weekend retreats. It was perfect for their situation because it was isolated and unlikely to be discovered. The cabin was small but comfortable, with one bedroom, a living area, and basic kitchen facilities. It was surrounded by trees and located at the end of a long dirt road, making it easy to see if anyone approached. "This is perfect," Marcus said as they settled in. "Thank you again for thinking of this place." Sarah was pleased that Marcus approved of her choice. She made sure he was comfortable and checked his injuries again. His condition continued to improve, but she could see he was still in pain. That evening, as they sat by the fireplace, Marcus and Sarah talked more about their lives. Sarah learned that Marcus had grown up in a military family and had always wanted to serve his country. He told her about his experiences overseas and the friends he had made in the Marines. "What about you?" Marcus asked. "How did you become a nurse?" Sarah explained that she had always wanted to help people. She had studied hard in nursing school and was proud of the work she did at the hospital, even though it was often difficult and emotionally draining. "You're a natural caregiver," Marcus observed. "I can see it in everything you do. You've been taking care of me like I'm family, even though we just met." Sarah blushed at the compliment. She had never thought of herself as particularly special, but Marcus made her feel like her compassion and kindness were valuable qualities. As the night went on, they continued talking about their hopes and dreams. Marcus told Sarah about his plans after his military service ended. He wanted to use his skills to help other veterans adjust to civilian life. Sarah shared her dream of eventually specializing in pediatric nursing and working with sick children. "You would be amazing at that," Marcus said sincerely. "Any child would be lucky to have you as their nurse." For the first time since this whole ordeal began, Sarah felt truly relaxed and happy. Despite the dangerous circumstances that had brought them together, she realized she was developing genuine feelings for Marcus. He was kind, brave, and thoughtful in ways that impressed her. "I'm glad I found you that night," Sarah said quietly. "I'm glad you did too," Marcus replied. "You saved my life in more ways than one." The next morning, Sarah woke up feeling optimistic. This would be the day that Marcus's military colleagues would arrive to help him. Soon he would be safe, and the criminals who had hurt him would be brought to justice. Marcus was already awake, sitting by the window and keeping watch for any signs of trouble. His injuries looked much better, and his color had returned to normal. Sarah was proud of how well she had cared for him. "Any word from your commanding officer?" Sarah asked. "I should hear something soon," Marcus replied. "The team was supposed to arrive in the city this morning." As they waited for news, Sarah and Marcus made breakfast together. It felt natural and comfortable, like they had known each other for years instead of just a few days. Sarah found herself imagining what it would be like if they could continue spending time together under normal circumstances. Around midday, Marcus finally received the message he had been waiting for. His face lit up as he read it. "They're here," Marcus announced. "They want me to meet them at a specific location in 2 hours." Sarah felt a mixture of relief and sadness. She was happy that Marcus would finally be safe, but she dreaded saying goodbye to him. These few days had been intense and meaningful, and she wasn't ready for their time together to end. "Where are you supposed to meet them?" Sarah asked. At a truck stop about 30 minutes from here, Marcus replied. It's a public place where we can meet safely. Sarah nodded, trying to hide her emotions. She knew this was the right thing to do, but she couldn't help feeling like she was about to lose something important. As they prepared to leave the cabin, Marcus took Sarah's hands in his. I want you to know, he said seriously, that what you've done for me will never be forgotten. You risked everything to help someone you didn't even know. That takes incredible courage and compassion. Sarah felt tears forming in her eyes. I'm going to miss you, she said honestly. I'm going to miss you too, Marcus replied. More than you know. They drove to the truck stop in companionable silence, both lost in their own thoughts. Sarah wondered what would happen to Marcus after today. Would he have to testify against the criminals? Would he be relocated for his safety? Would she ever see him again? When they arrived at the truck stop, Sarah could see several men in civilian clothes who appeared to be military personnel. They were positioned around the parking lot in a way that suggested they were providing security for the meeting. That's them, Marcus confirmed. My backup has arrived. Sarah parked the car and Marcus turned to face her one more time. Promise me something, he said. Promise me you'll be careful. These criminals might still be looking for me, and they might remember that you were involved. I'll be careful, Sarah promised. You just focus on staying safe and making sure those criminals are stopped. Marcus leaned over and kissed Sarah gently on the cheek. Thank you for everything, he whispered. Then he got out of the car and walked toward his fellow Marines. Sarah watched as he was greeted by the other men and quickly surrounded by their protective circle. Within minutes, they had all gotten into separate vehicles and driven away. Sarah sat in her car for a long time, feeling empty and alone. The adventure was over, but she wasn't sure how to return to her normal life after everything that had happened. She had experienced something extraordinary, and now she had to figure out how to move forward without Marcus. Sarah returned to work the next day, trying to slip back into her normal routine. She told her supervisor that she had been sick with the flu, which explained her absence. None of her colleagues suspected that she had been hiding a wounded Marine and running from dangerous criminals. But everything felt different now. The emergency department that had once seemed exciting and challenging now felt routine and predictable. Sarah found herself thinking about Marcus constantly, wondering where he was and whether he was safe. 2 weeks passed without any word from Marcus. Sarah had no way to contact him, and she didn't even know his last name or unit designation. She began to wonder if she would ever see him again, or if their brief time together had been just a strange interlude in her otherwise ordinary life. Sarah was working the night shift when she noticed unusual activity in the hospital parking lot. Through the emergency department windows, she could see several black vehicles parked near the entrance. Men in suits were standing around the vehicles, and they appeared to be scanning the area carefully. At first, Sarah felt a surge of fear. Had the criminals found her? Were they coming to the hospital to silence her permanently? She considered calling security, but then she noticed something familiar about one of the men. It was Marcus. He was wearing a dress uniform and looked much healthier than when she had last seen him. He was talking to several other men who were also in military dress uniforms. Sarah's heart began racing, but now it was from excitement rather than fear. Sarah quickly finished her current task and told her supervisor she needed to step outside for a moment. She practically ran to the parking lot where Marcus was still standing with the group of military personnel. "Marcus!" she called out as she approached. Marcus turned around, and his face broke into a huge smile when he saw her. "Sarah, I was hoping you'd be working tonight." "What are you doing here?" Sarah asked, still hardly believing that he was really standing in front of her. "We came to thank you," Marcus said. "Officially." Sarah noticed that the other men with Marcus were all wearing uniforms with high-ranking insignia. One of them, an older man with silver hair, stepped forward. "Ms. Martinez," the older man said formally. "I'm Colonel James Morrison, Marcus's commanding officer. We're here to express our gratitude for what you did." Sarah felt overwhelmed. "I don't understand. I just helped someone who was injured. Anyone would have done the same thing." "No, ma'am," the colonel replied. "What you did was extraordinary. You risked your own safety to help a fellow American in danger. Because of your actions, we were able to conduct a successful operation against a major criminal organization." Marcus stepped closer to Sarah. "The information I gathered led to the arrest of 15 people involved in the drug smuggling operation," he explained. "They've been conducting illegal activities for years, and now they've been stopped." "But that's not all," the colonel continued. "Your care and protection of Sergeant Thompson allowed him to remain hidden until we could safely extract him. Without your help, he might not have survived, and these criminals might never have been brought to justice." Sarah felt tears forming in her eyes. She had never expected anything like this. When she helped Marcus, she was just following her instincts as a nurse and as a human being. She never imagined it would lead to such significant results. "We have something for you," the colonel said, holding out an official-looking document. "This is a certificate of appreciation from the United States Marine Corps recognizing your courage and service to your country." Sarah took the certificate with shaking hands. She had never received any kind of official recognition before, and she was deeply moved by the gesture. "There's more," Marcus said with a grin. "We also wanted to invite you to be our guest at a special ceremony tomorrow." "What kind of ceremony?" Sarah asked. "I'm receiving a commendation for my actions during this operation," Marcus explained. "But I told my superiors that you deserve to be recognized too. They agreed to include you in the ceremony." Sarah was speechless. She looked around at all the Marines standing in the hospital parking lot, and she realized they had all come here specifically to thank her. The magnitude of what they were telling her was still sinking in. "I don't know what to say," Sarah said finally. "Say you'll come to the ceremony," the colonel requested. "And say you'll let us treat you to dinner afterward. It's the least we can do." Sarah nodded enthusiastically. "Of course I'll come. I'm honored to be invited." The colonel and the other Marines shook Sarah's hand and thanked her once more before returning to their vehicles. Soon, only Marcus remained with Sarah in the parking lot. "I can't believe you're here," Sarah said, still feeling dazed by everything that had just happened. "I promised myself I would come back and thank you properly," Marcus said. "I've been thinking about you every day since we said goodbye." "I've been thinking about you too," Sarah admitted. "I was worried about you. I didn't know what happened after you left with your team." "It took a while to wrap up the operation," Marcus explained. "We had to conduct surveillance, gather evidence, and coordinate with law enforcement agencies. But it's all finished now, and the criminals are in prison." "What happens to you now?" Sarah asked. "That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about," Marcus said, looking nervous for the first time since he had arrived. "My current assignment ends next month, and I have the option to request a new posting. I was thinking about requesting assignment to the recruiting station here in the city." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. "Really? You want to stay here?" "I want to stay near you," Marcus said honestly. "These past 2 weeks made me realize how much you mean to me. I know we've only known each other for a short time and under unusual circumstances, but I'd like to get to know you better under normal circumstances." Sarah felt like she might burst from happiness. She had been hoping for exactly this outcome, but had been afraid to let herself believe it might actually happen. "I would love that," Sarah said. "I've been hoping we could spend more time together, too." Marcus took Sarah's hands, just like he had done when they said goodbye at the truck stop. But this time, instead of saying farewell, he was asking for a new beginning. "Would you like to go to dinner with me tomorrow night?" Marcus asked. "After the ceremony?" "I would love to," Sarah replied. The ceremony the next day was held at the Marine Corps base outside the city. Sarah wore her best dress and felt nervous as she was escorted into a room full of military personnel and their families. She was given a seat of honor near the front of the room. When Marcus's name was called, Sarah watched proudly as he received his commendation for courage and dedication to duty. The commanding general spoke about how Marcus had risked his own safety to gather intelligence that led to the dismantling of a criminal organization. Then, to Sarah's surprise, her own name was called. She was invited to the front of the room, where she was presented with another certificate and a special medal recognizing her as an honorary friend of the Marine Corps. "Miss Martinez," the general said as he presented her award, "your actions exemplify the best qualities of American citizenship. You put the welfare of others before your own safety, and your country is grateful for your service." The entire room erupted in applause. Sarah felt overwhelmed with emotion as she looked out at all the Marines and their families who were celebrating her actions. She had never felt so honored and appreciated in her life. After the ceremony, Marcus introduced Sarah to his fellow Marines and their families. Everyone wanted to thank her personally and hear the story of how she had helped Marcus. Sarah was amazed by how welcoming and friendly everyone was. At dinner that evening, Sarah and Marcus talked for hours about their hopes for the future. Marcus explained his plans to work in Marine recruiting, which would allow him to help young people who wanted to serve their country. Sarah shared her continued dream of working in pediatric nursing. "I think we both like helping people," Marcus observed. "Maybe that's part of why we connected so well." "I think you're right," Sarah agreed. "And I think we're both willing to take risks to do what's right." As the weeks and months passed, Sarah and Marcus continued to spend time together. Marcus was approved for assignment to the local recruiting station, and he found an apartment near Sarah's neighborhood. They gradually built a relationship based on mutual respect, shared values, and genuine affection. 6 months after their first meeting in the hospital parking lot, Marcus proposed to Sarah during a quiet dinner at the same restaurant where they had celebrated after the Marine Corps ceremony. He told her that meeting her had changed his life completely, and he wanted to spend the rest of his life with someone who shared his commitment to serving others. Sarah said yes without hesitation. She had never imagined that helping a stranger in a parking lot would lead to finding the love of her life, but she was grateful every day for the courage she had shown that night. 1 year later, Sarah and Marcus were married in a ceremony attended by Marines from Marcus's unit and nurses from Sarah's hospital. The colonel who had first thanked Sarah served as Marcus's best man, and Sarah's aunt, who owned the cabin where they had hidden, gave a reading during the ceremony. In her wedding speech, Sarah reflected on how their relationship had begun with an act of compassion in a moment of crisis. She said that their marriage was built on the same foundation of caring for others and being willing to sacrifice for what's right. "Marcus taught me that sometimes helping one person can change the world," Sarah said to their wedding guests. "And sometimes it can change your own life in ways you never expected." Marcus and Sarah honeymooned at her aunt's cabin, the same place where they had hidden from danger during their first days together. But now, instead of fear and uncertainty, the cabin was filled with love and hope for their future together. Years later, Sarah often told the story of how she met her husband to her pediatric patients and their families. She used it as an example of how one small act of kindness can have enormous consequences that ripple outward in unexpected ways. "I just saw someone who needed help," Sarah would say. "I never imagined it would lead to the most important relationship of my life, or that it would help put dangerous criminals in prison. But that's the thing about doing the right thing. You never know where it might lead." Marcus eventually became the head recruiter for his region, and he often spoke to high school students about service and citizenship. He would tell them Sarah's story as an example of how ordinary people can make extraordinary differences in the world. Together, Sarah and Marcus raised 2 children who grew up hearing the story of how their parents met. The children were proud of both their mother's compassion and their father's courage, and they learned early in life that helping others is one of the most important things a person can do. Sarah never regretted her decision to help a stranger in that dark parking lot. It had led to danger and uncertainty, but it had also led to love, purpose, and a deeper understanding of what it means to truly care for other people. She often wondered what would have happened if she had just walked to her car that night and ignored the sounds of someone in distress. "I'm glad I'll never know," Sarah would say when people asked her about it. Sometimes the best decisions we make are the ones where we follow our hearts instead of our heads. The story of the young nurse who saved a Marine became legendary among both the staff at City General Hospital and the Marines at the local recruiting station. It was told and retold as an example of courage, compassion, and the unexpected ways that lives can become intertwined. For Sarah and Marcus, it was simply the beginning of their love story, a reminder that the most important moments in life often come when we choose to help others, even when it's difficult or dangerous to do so.